Yeah, so good evening, guys. So, welcome to today's lecture. You can see the screen, right? You can see the slides, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, today we are, finally going into what this entire course is about, right? That is Biomass Energy Systems. So, it's just an overview we'll see today. Okay. So, what is biomass? The structure of biomass, biomass conversion pathways, and slight introduction to agricultural residues and biofuels, and then we'll go into the Q&A session. So once I'm done with this lecture, we can have the discussion on the final assessment. So what is biomass? Okay, can someone else tell me what biomass is? What do you mean by biomass? Anyone?
Organic matter produced.
Yeah, organic matter produced by plants or sometimes even animals as well. So like cow dung, for example, that is also considered biomass. But mostly it is organic matter produced by plants. The keyword here is recently living plants, right? So what do you mean by recently living? So okay, let me ask you this. So biomass is from plants, right? So you have these plants that have been harvested or something, and then they are being used as fuel. Okay. In a way, if you see coal and oil, they are also from the phytoplanktons and all of these plant matter from millions of years ago. So why is biomass renewable whereas coal and oil not renewable?
The time required for its formation, sir. Coal
Exactly.
requires a lot of time, heat, pressure, and all. But
Yeah.
the biomass which we mentioned here, like crops,
Hmm.
just need one cycle, one
Yeah.
season.
Exactly. So that's the most important thing here, right? So to
Yes.
form the organic matter, or so to speak, the fuel that we require, right? Biomass takes only one cycle, like we said. So maybe one crop cycle, or maybe if you have a plantation or something, let's say a wood plantation or something, so maybe 3 to 4 years. That's it. Coal, on the other hand, or oil, on the other hand, will take like millions of years to form. And that is the reason biomass is considered renewable, whereas coal and oil, even though it is from the same plant and animal matter, it's not considered non-renewable. Now, the other thing is, um, you know, biomass is considered carbon neutral. Why is that? So carbon neutral, yeah. So that is, it's not adding any new carbon to the atmosphere. Why is that?
Because whatever biomass is formed is
Yeah.
taken up from the environment only, from the atmosphere,
Yes.
and
Yes.
is
So
put back into the environment.
you have photosynthesis, and then during photosynthesis you have the plants take up the carbon dioxide, and then when you burn the residues of that plant, it's the same CO2 that is released, right? So there's no new addition of CO2. When you talk about coal and oil, literally it is from the same plant matter, but then that is not considered carbon neutral, because we just discussed the timeline, right? So this is carbon that has been formed or that has been stored within the surface of the earth for millions of years. You're just taking it out and then releasing it in the form of carbon dioxide within a few days or years or something, right? So that's one reason why fossil fuels like oil and coal are not carbon neutral. Okay. So plants, so recently living plants and their derivatives, so that is biomass. And plants produce their own energy, okay, through photosynthesis. And like we just discussed, they take in carbon dioxide and then use that for their energy requirement. They turn it into simple sugar, okay. And so basically biomass is indirectly stored solar energy because they use energy from the sun to convert carbon dioxide along with this mm, along with the energy from the sun and along with water. They convert that into energy. So it is indirectly stored solar energy. Okay. And there are three plant elements of three elements, basically three processes that aid in the plant growth. One is photosynthesis, the second is respiration, and the third is transpiration. And photorespiration can occur at times under high light and heat conditions. So what is photorespiration? Where photosynthesis and respiration occur simultaneously. That normally happens in the early morning or late evening times. So we'll have a look into all of these three processes, right? The first is photosynthesis. So what is photosynthesis? So the plants capture energy from the sunlight, and that excites the electrons in the chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is a pigment, green pigment, which kind of traps the sunlight. So we would have read this all in primary school, basically, right? So what happens in the second stage is that this energy is used to produce adenosine triphosphate, NADP plus, NADPH. All these are all light dependent reactions because it depends on the energy available to the plant, right? And it uses this energy to produce all these compounds, basically. In the third stage, the ATP and NADPH produced is converted into glucose using the carbon dioxide. And you can see this diagram over here. So using the light and water, what happens is, so the light dependent reactions happen where ATP and NADPH are produced. Using that, the light independent reactions happen where glucose is produced and then that glucose is stored. Okay, for use later during nighttime when there is no sunlight available. And this is the generalized equation. So yesterday I was talking about CO2 gives C plus O2. So this is a more complicated version of that. And this is still generalized. So if you can go into much into depth, right? So 6 CO2 plus 12 H2O plus you have ATP, NADPH gives C6H12O6. So this is glucose. Okay. And you're forming 6O2. So 6 CO2 goes into the body of the plant and converts that gets converted into glucose, and the oxygen is released into the atmosphere. Respiration. So coming to respiration is just the opposite of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis occurs during times of sunlight. During sunlight hours during the day, when there is enough energy available from the sun. When there is not no enough, when there's not enough energy available from the sun, what happens? So plants also have to survive, right? So they use the stored energy, the stored glucose, to again they just oxidize it, or basically they burn it, and then to form 6 CO2 and 6 H2O, and that gives energy to the plant, right? And this energy is what is used for cell growth and building new tissues. The third one is transpiration. So transpiration is, transports minerals from the soil throughout the plant. Okay. It cools the plant through evaporation and moving sugars and plant chemicals throughout the plant body. And then it maintains the cell pressure, that is pressure exerted by the fluids within a plant cell. Okay, So for a plant to function or grow properly, there needs to be a delicate balance between the three processes. What are the three processes? You have photosynthesis, respiration, and transpiration. All of these processes have to have a proper balance. Only then the plant will grow properly. So next is let's come to the structure of biomass. What is contained in biomass? So biomass consists of three major components. So one is lignin, the second is cellulose, and third is hemicellulose. But chemically speaking, it's made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The elemental balance of the biomass is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So some of the biomass may even have nitrogen, some may even have sulfur, and that is because of all the nutrients that they take in. So if you see woody biomass, they may have nitrogen because because we use nitrogen as fertilizers and all, right? So what is lignin? It's a non-carbohydrate polyphenolic structural constituent of biomass. And the function of this lignin is to hold the biomass together. It is what gives the biomass strength. Okay. And I'll show you some examples just in the next slide. Okay. So hemicellulose is a polysaccharide polymer. Okay. And it has very little strength and it can be easily hydrolyzed. Or it can be easily broken down by acids. Okay. So it's easy to break down. Cellulose is again another polymer and it's a linear chain followed by all these chemicals like glucopyranose and linked by glucosidic bonds. You don't have to go into the details of it. Okay. Cellulose is highly crystalline. I think hemicellulose is not crystalline. Cellulose is crystalline. Both are polymers basically. Okay. And it forms intra and extramolecular bonds with hydrogen and so this kind of it forms microfibrils and then these microfibrils constitute the main component of the cell wall. So lignin, hemicellulose, and cellulose. So lignin is not a polymer actually, but it's a polyphenolic structural constituent. So it is also a polymer, but it is what gives strength to the entire plant or entire biomass. Hemicellulose and cellulose are polymers. Again, hemicellulose is a polysaccharide polymer, and cellulose is a glucan polymer. And cellulose kind of helps form the cell wall, right? So this is a structure. So you can see the lignin over here. Okay, that kind of blends in with the hemicellulose and cellulose. So hemicellulose is here and the cellulose is over here. The cell, for each cell, it forms the wall, right? The cellulose and lignin is what gives strength to uh, the entire structure. And here you can see the CHO complex, so carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So for most of the biomass, you can see it's almost constant, right? The composition of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, it's almost constant for almost all biomass. Maybe slightly higher for woods and slightly lower carbon content for other kind of biomass. So, okay, I would like you to look at this table here and tell me what you find that is interesting here. So let's look at the difference between woods and other kind of lignocellulosic biomass. So let me tell you that. Anyone? Just have a look at this table. You know which ones are the woody biomass, right? And which ones are the non-woody biomass, so to speak. And what is the difference between the two? From this table, you can tell me.
Sir, lignin is the hard part, right? So we are trying to
Yes.
have a biomass which has a
Hmm.
very low lignin content compared to the cellulose and
No, I mean,
hemicellulose.
why do you need low lignin content?
In order to easily access the cellulose and hemicellulose.
Yeah, but that is true if you want to do biochemical conversion. We'll come to that. So
Okay,
if you
sir.
want microorganisms to, eat up the biomass, basically what you're saying is right. But if you're doing thermochemical conversion, if you're just going to burn it, then why do you need low lignin content? But
Okay.
I just want to know what you find here between woody biomass and non-woody biomass. You're almost there. You just have to go a little further.
The cellulose content is more in woody biomass, sir.
How exactly?
Like if we see the coconut coir and the like some stuff like cotton gin waste and everything, it has very high content of cellulose, right?
Cotton stalk is not woody biomass, right? That's like just a plant. It's like straw, like rice straw you'd have seen. It's slightly and slightly thicker than straw or something. It's slightly harder than straw, but other than that, there's no difference actually. So okay, did you identify which ones are the woody biomass first? That will give you the idea. Which ones are the wood here? Like,
Sir, eucalyptus 1, 2,
yeah,
then coconut coir, coconut
coconut
shell.
coir is coconut coir a wood?
No, it's not wood. The
Hmm.
outer shell, outer part of a
Coconut
coconut.
shell.
Coconut shell is not wood, but yeah,
It is
it's
kind of
similar to
hard,
that. I mean, it's
similar to it.
similarly hard, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What else?
And pine also.
Yes,
It
pine
has
is
a
wood.
woody. Yes.
Yes. There's one more hard biomass here that in this list.
Groundnut
Some
shell.
Yes, groundnut shell is quite hard. I mean, you can crush it with your hand, but it is quite hard for a microorganism to penetrate, right?
Yes.
So now that
Yes.
you've identified the woods here, so now tell me what is the difference between these types of biomass versus the other types. So these are hard, right? So that's your clue. So these are going to be very hard and the hard
Yes, sir.
outer
That is
shell,
because
basically.
of the mainly the lignin content, right? Like you said.
Absolutely. Do you notice the lignin content?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what do you find there? Like,
It's pretty much high when compared to the others, like
yes,
eucalyptus, pine,
yeah.
and coconut shell,
And you see coconut
coir
shell
pith,
and
and
go
groundnut shell also.
groundnut shells. So they're all like
Yes.
above 30, above 25, 30, this range,
Yes.
right? And if you
Yes.
look at the other type of biomass, the lignocellulosic, the agricultural residues, so you see bagasse, for example, sugarcane bagasse is 18.3. Soybean, this is
Yes.
soybean stock. Soybean stock is like 14. And you have coir
Mhm.
pith. Coir pith is nothing but the back part of the coconut that you get, right? Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
When you break open a I mean the outer coconut shell, right? So
Yes.
you'll
Yes.
find that the fiber part that is coir pith.
But that is pretty high, no, sir. Coir
Oh,
pith is
wait.
31.
Oh, sorry. Coir pith is, I think, it is the outer part of the coconut. Coconut coir is
Yes.
the inner one, that fiber one.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that the coir pith is quite hard, right? And then
Yeah.
if you see the coconut coir, the fibrous part, that is not very hard. You can just bend it, you
Yeah.
can
It is
break
kind
it,
of
whatever.
soft. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So high lignin content indicates higher strength of the material. Okay.
Yes.
So coming to the conversion pathways, so there are two major conversion pathways. One is thermochemical conversion, which involves heat. Okay, and the other is biochemical conversion, which involves microorganisms degrading it biologically. Okay, and so from both of these, so I'll do this in detail in just a few slides, but from both of these, through both of these conversion methods, you can produce different types of materials or different value-added products. Like you can produce electricity, fuels, and other value-added products. Okay. And what happens in a biochemical conversion is that if the lignin content is low, then you can just break open the biomass. You can remove the lignin. You can break open the biomass, and then you can either ferment it or you can, uh, have some degradation of the biomass to produce ethanol or biogas and so on. In thermochemical conversion, you have combustion, pyrolysis, and gasification, which involves subjecting the biomass to high temperatures so that the entire structure breaks down. So here it doesn't matter what the lignin content is. So even if the lignin content is high, we can just break it down very easily because it's just burnt. An overview of the agricultural residues and biofuels. So there are three generations of biofuels. So we talked about this, I think, in the first or second lecture. So what are the three generations? The first generation, which is the most commercial one right now, the first generation is produced from crops and grains directly, like sugarcane, corn. You also have through rice, barley, wheat. You can produce ethanol from anything. Okay. Second generation is so second generation biofuels are produced from the waste biomass or the agricultural residues that are produced as a byproduct or a waste product of agriculture, which will otherwise be discarded. You can use that to produce ethanol or methanol or whatever it is you want. So you can subject it to different types of conversion, like we just saw, to produce whatever it is we want. And this is in research right now, and there are a few 2G ethanol plants. I mean, there is only one actually. The government actually planned 12 2G ethanol plants in 2018, but only one could come to fruition. That is in Panipat in Haryana, and I think another one is being built right now. Okay, and the reason why this is, and the reason why 2G ethanol is very I mean it's not working properly is because it's expensive, and that is because for production of ethanol you need sugar, and sugars are available in plenty in the grain itself, but not so much in the agricultural residues. So you need to hydrolyze it first to release the sugars and then go for the fermentation, which is a very expensive process. So 3G, third generation ethanol is produced from algae, which is currently very few people are doing research on it. It may come up maybe in 20 years or something like that. Okay. Uh, Coming to agricultural residues, there are two types of agricultural residues. So what are agricultural residues? It's just organic material that is produced as byproduct from the after the harvesting of the main crop. So there are two types. One is primary residue, the other is secondary. Primary residue is obtained from the field during harvest. So let's say you have a rice field, a paddy field. You harvest the crop and then you're doing the threshing and everything. So what remains is that straw, right? Rice straw. Similar thing happens with wheat, ragi, jowar, bajra, everything. Okay. So you have all these straws, right? Which you obtain directly from the field. So that is primary residue. Secondary residue is something that is obtained after processing, further processing in an industry. Okay. For example, you go to the rice mill, they separate the rice husk from the bran and from the rice itself, right? The rice husk is obtained in that particular rice mill. Bagasse is obtained after you take out all the juice from the sugarcane, right? So that happens in a sugar mill. So these are all examples of secondary residues. Okay. And what are advanced biofuels? So advanced biofuels are those fuels derived from bioresidues available by water-based vegetation, forest or organic waste, byproduct of crop production, agro or food industry waste. So it could be anything. It could be agricultural residues. It could be food waste. It could be even municipal solid waste. In fact, if you have the garbage dump where you can find some, let's say, combustible materials, you can use that also to produce biofuels. Okay. And the production pathways we have already discussed. We'll discuss that in detail in the coming slides. So are you able to see this? It's a little small, I feel, or is it okay?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Visible, right? 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have different types of conversion pathways, right? So let's talk about the biochemical conversion, for example. So the residues that are not very high on lignin, like the wet herbaceous rich residue, right? Lignin lean, right? So you have sewage effluents or agricultural residues like straws and all. So it can be subjected to anaerobic digestion. Okay, so anaerobic digestion is where biomethanation takes place. The biomass is converted into biogas, which is a combination of, which is a mix of uh, methane and carbon dioxide. Okay. So here it says sweetening the gas. What do you mean? Can someone tell me what is meant by sweetening the gas?
It is odorless, sir. So in order to have a smell, they sweeten
No,
the
it's
gas. Is it?
no. It's not. It's nothing to do with odor here.
Okay.
Is it? Does it have to do something with alcohol? Because it's anaerobic.
No, but there's no alcohol here. It's only anaerobic digestion, right? So you produce methane directly. Methane as in you produce biogas, which is a mix of CH4 and CO2. Okay, I'll just tell you. Sweetening the gas is nothing but just ridding it of its impurities. That's it. So you either remove the CO2, there could also be sulfur dioxide sometimes, or H2S. Okay. So you remove all these impurities and then you use, so it's especially if you have acid gas like H2S, hydrogen sulfide, it is not very good to be used in the engine or whatever for downstream process. So you'll remove the hydrogen sulfide and then you will use it for production of electricity or whatever your downstream processes. Okay. Now the next one is let's take, so let's take the next biochemical process, which is fermentation. So what happens in fermentation is you have biomass. So in case you're using grain, you can ferment that easily. Okay, because it is very high in sugar and the sugars are released also quite easily. So you can ferment that easily. But when you have this type of biomass, right, you have starchy sorry, this is, cellulose rich plant material over here. So you have to do some kind of, you have to do a pre-treatment first to break the lignin and separate out the lignin. So it could be an acid pre-treatment, alkaline pre-treatment, or steam explosion, physical, all of these. We'll come to that in a few days. Okay. Then you have hydrolysis. So hydrolysis is again, you have to subject it to some um, biological processes where these microorganisms are producing enzymes And these enzymes kind of release the hydrolyze the cellulose and hemicellulose, and they release sugars, which are monomers, C5 and C6 sugars. Okay, and that can be fermented to produce ethanol. So this is what happens. And the next one is the thermochemical process. So in thermochemical, you have gasification, combustion, uh, and pyrolysis. These are the three major processes that you have in thermochemical conversion. So what can someone tell me the difference between these three processes? Pyrolysis, gasification, and combustion. If anyone knows about this already, yeah,
So pyrolysis, combustion, and
gasification.
so pyrolysis is the breakdown of glucose molecules, uh, and
It has nothing to do with glucose.
so then I don't have idea about it. So combustion is
Well,
production of heat, maybe after the
yeah, combustion
reaction.
is right. Just tell me pyrolysis and gasification. Do you know about gasification?
No, I don't have an idea about it.
Oh, okay. There is just one fundamental difference between these three processes. It's about okay. Before I go into that, let me ask you, for combustion, what are the necessary conditions like for combustion to take place? A lot of you are from
Oxygen.
mechanical, so sorry.
Oxygen.
Yes, absolutely. So there are three things that you need. One is the fuel. I mean the combustible substance first, which is your biomass in this case. The second is oxygen, like you just said. The third, there's one more thing required actually for combustion.
Sir, spark.
Yeah, spark. It's not spark actually, it's the temperature.
Fire. Okay.
It's the high temperature. So you have combustible material everywhere. In fact, even our bodies are combustible and oxygen is everywhere. That means that everyone should just catch fire spontaneously. Huh? Yeah. But that doesn't happen because the temperature is quite low over here, right? And the room temperature is quite low. But then, if you notice, if the temperature increases and you have a lot of, let's say, the forest and all, when the temperature increases, there are random forest fires. Why does that happen? It's mainly because of this, right? Because there is dry biomass everywhere, and there is quite high temperature, and once it catches fire, it just spreads. Okay, so that's what happened. So pyrolysis, so there is one fundamental difference between pyrolysis, gasification, and combustion. It's the amount of oxygen that you give for the conversion process. So for pyrolysis, you subject the biomass to, or I mean, any material to very high temperatures, maybe about 600, 700 degrees centigrade, without any air. Like it should be in an inert medium. There should be no air at all. So then what happens is there are some volatile gases, volatiles that are within this biomass. Those get released at high temperatures. And this could be a mix of hydrogen, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, methane, all of this. So it's a mix of these gases. And these are volatile gases that get released. So what happens in this case when pyrolysis happens is that you produce biochar, okay, or charcoal, okay, and sometimes depending on the speed of pyrolysis, or rather the rate of pyrolysis. So if you quickly increase the temperature from 0 to 700, or let's say 25 to 700, that's called fast pyrolysis, and it's about, let's say, you'd go at a rate of about 1000 degrees Celsius per minute. Okay. So within 1 minute, you will be reaching 700. Slow pyrolysis is when you increase like step by step. 2-3 degrees per minute. So in fast pyrolysis, what happens is you will have a lot of liquid products, and that is called bio oil. Okay. So when you subject the biomass to fast pyrolysis, there is something called bio oil. So this bio oil can be esterified, or it can be subject to chemical treatment to produce biodiesel. Okay. And when you do slow pyrolysis, you will produce a lot of char. Okay, biochar. This biochar can be used for whatever purpose you need. A biochar can also be used for water treatment, or it can be used. It can further be used in gasification or combustion processes if you need that. Okay, and there is one more process called torrefaction. Torrefaction is a kind of mild pyrolysis. So we'll talk about this later. So I'm not going into details of this right now. So gasification. So we know what pyrolysis is. That is heating in the absence of air. Gasification is when you subject the biomass to high temperature, but with limited supply of air. Let's say that biomass requires 6 kg of oxygen to completely combust. That is turn into carbon dioxide and water. So combustion, what is combustion process? When you combust something with sufficient quantity of air, it converts into carbon dioxide and water, that water vapor. So those are your products, right? So if X amount is required, you give like 0.2, 0.3X. Okay. So if you require 6 kgs of air to combust 1 kg of biomass, you give like 2-3 kgs. Okay. Then what happens is instead of carbon dioxide, because of the lack of oxygen, you produce carbon monoxide. And instead of water vapor, instead of H2O, you produce H2. So that mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen is called producer gas or syngas. Okay. So we'll learn about this more and when we come to the gasification portion. And combustion is quite straightforward. I just told you, you have this heated with sufficient quantity of oxygen. You produce a lot of heat, and your products are carbon dioxide and water vapor. That's it. So what is the use of gasification and pyrolysis? So pyrolysis I just explained. And combustion, it's very straightforward. So if you combust biomass, you can produce heat, and then you can produce electricity using that heat. Okay. When we talk about gasification, there are two types of gasification. One is you can use air as the oxidizing medium, which contains a large amount of nitrogen also. Okay. Or you can use oxygen and steam, a combination of oxygen and steam as your oxidizing medium. Okay, so there should be no air or no exposure to air in the system. Okay, so you're using oxygen and steam. So what is the difference between the two? So when you subject the biomass to air gasification, there is high nitrogen content in the syngas, or that one is called producer gas. So it is good for producing electricity. Okay, you have very low calorific value of the gas. When you subject it to oxy-steam gasification, there are some reactions that occur. The steam reacts with the char inside the reactor to form more hydrogen. So this gas form that is called syngas, it's very rich in hydrogen. So what happens is you can separate this hydrogen out. So you can produce hydrogen, pure hydrogen that is, or you can use it because of the hydrogen-rich syngas. You can produce methanol. You can produce ethanol through catalytic conversion, or there is something called FT synthesis, Fischer-Tropsch synthesis. You can produce biodiesel and bio petrol basically. So you can do all of this through thermochemical conversion, whereas in biochemical conversion, we are limited by a lot of constraints. All right. Do you have any doubts on this?
So you mentioned thermo, right? Like heat.
Yeah.
In combustion, the biomass itself is used to generate the heat. What about
Biomass itself?
gas? Is used as a source of what is that? Like
Okay,
how coal is
so
used. Like
I get your confusion. Actually, it's not about producing heat. It's about subjecting that biomass to that heat. That is what that's
Okay.
where the thermal comes from.
Okay, sir.
The
So
thermal
you're
comes from,
using
right?
something else as the source of heat in order to get a
No.
end product.
No. See, you're burning the biomass itself. That itself is the heat. That's how the heat is generated, right?
Okay, yeah.
See, biomass itself is the fuel here. So if you just burn it, it creates the temperature necessary. So more biomass you put in, it all burns up, right?
Okay, yes,
So
sir.
it depends on how much oxygen you're using with that heat to to know what products you will get. Do you get like large amount of heat and then flue gas like carbon dioxide and water vapor, or do you get syngas and producer gas, or do you get bio oil and biochar? So that depends on how much oxygen you give to affect this heat, basically, right? So in pyrolysis, though, pyrolysis is slightly different, where you subject it to heat from outside, so some other source, and then because you don't have oxygen here, so it's not self-sustaining. So gasification and combustion are self-sustaining reactions because the oxygen is there, the temperature just keeps on rising. Any other doubt? Okay, let's
No,
move.
sir. Clear,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, let's move forward. So that's it for today, actually. But so if you don't have any more doubts, I'll just go into the questions directly. So why is biomass considered carbon neutral?
Sir, option C.
Why is that?
Because the first option, biomass combustion actually releases carbon dioxide,
Yes,
and carbon emitted during biomass conversion to biofuels are not easily captured and stored. They're not stored anymore.
right. And they could be if you want. I mean, you could do
Yeah.
that, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the C option is
C
like
is
you. Yeah.
CO2
During.
emitted during biomass conversion is the same as the CO2 that was used during the growth phase of the plant. Yes.
Yeah. Through photosynthesis, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Next, what are the three important processes that aid in plant growth?
B.
Option B, sir.
Yes. I have respiration, which kind of releases the energy for the cell growth, for the tissue growth and everything. You have transpiration that transports nutrients through the body and releases excess.
Water to the atmosphere.
Okay, and photosynthesis is to produce the basically to
Energy.
produce the energy required for the other two processes, right? 1 second. Yeah. So next question is, why is wood hard to break compared to other lignocellulosic biomass like straws?
Sir, option C.
C, sir.
Yeah. High composition of lignin. So lignin is what provides the extra protection for the structure, basically, right?
Yes.
Classify the following residues into primary and secondary biomass. So you have rice husk, sugarcane bagasse, wheat straw.
Secondary, primary, and secondary.
Are you sure?
Secondary
All are
and
secondary, actually.
secondary and primary.
That's right. Why is it? Can you justify it?
Because the sugarcane bagasse is the one that you get after you process sugarcane.
Yes.
And Yeah, and wheat straw is the beginning, the one that's there in the beginning stage.
Yeah, I mean you get
Yeah.
it at the field itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
and
what about
rice
rice
husk
husk?
is that's secondary.
Yeah, why is that secondary?
Because you get it after, like, it's that
Yeah,
the
you get
outer
it in the rice mills,
part.
right? So the
Yeah,
outer layer is
yeah,
peeled off and you get the rice bran,
yeah.
right? So next one, classify the following into first generation and second generation biofuels.
A is second generation.
Are you sure?
Because
Sir, what is B and C molasses, sir?
The molasses are what the brown thing that comes out of sugarcane, right? Before you get
Okay, the
jaggery.
sugarcane juice. The juice.
Not sugarcane juice exactly, but I mean it's after sugarcane juice where you produce that thick liquid just before you produce jaggery.
Okay, after heating up the juice.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sir. Yeah, so that is primary, the first generation. And the second
Yes.
one is second generation. Third is first generation.
Yeah.
And fourth is second generation.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay. So mention the possible conversion pathways and products that could be produced using the following biomass. You can just go through it. For each one, you just mention. Let's do conversion pathways first, then we'll do the products. Okay.
Conversion pathway in the sense biochemical or thermochemical.
Yeah, biochemical or thermochemical. If you go even further also, that's also okay. If you want to say what type of biochemical conversion, what type of thermochemical, that's also okay. Let's start. Let's start with pine wood. So, what conversion pathway can pine wood be subject to?
So it is basically lignaceous biomass. So it has
Everything
high
is
content of.
lignocellulosic. Okay, so there's no difference
Oh, okay.
between wood and straw. So, what is lignocellulosic? Right? So it contains lignin, it contains cellulose and hemicellulose. Anything that contains
Yes.
these three are lignocellulosic biomass. So both wood and straw are lignocellulosic. Then the
So high
difference
content
lies
of
in what is the content of lignin and content of
percentage.
cellulose
Yes.
and hemicellulose. Yeah.
Yes. So pine wood can undergo any of the three, like pyrolysis or combustion or gasification.
Right. So what can you produce using those three?
You can produce
Sir,
either
pine wood can be
electricity.
biochemical also, no, sir?
How can you subject pine wood to biochemical process?
Like wood is
What is the
usually
what
like
is the issue? What is the issue with doing that? That is my question here.
It is hard
What is
to
the?
break through the lignin.
What is the
lignin
yeah, that's true. So what is the issue with subjecting pine wood to biochemical conversion?
Like we have seen sometimes fungus and all, like all those microorganisms.
Yeah,
They
they
eventually
they'll but how much? Okay, let's say you just leave a wood rotting for a while. How much time does it take for the fungus to completely consume the wood? You tell me that.
Yeah, it takes
And what does
Years
it produce?
to-
It produces CO2
years
and
to-
H2O because it's aerobic digestion. That's it. That's all happens.
Yes.
Okay.
yes,
So biochemical conversion of wood is very difficult because it has extremely high lignin content, and lignin is very hard to break. It cannot be broken down by microorganisms. So if that is the case, you won't see any trees around. Okay.
okay.
If wood can be broken into by microorganisms, you cannot see trees or you cannot have wood at all. Okay.
So lignin, is it like uniformly distributed over the bark of trees?
Yeah, of course. Bark branches everywhere, whichever is hard, no? Hard to break. It all has lignin,
Okay.
high lignin content. Okay. So
Okay,
yeah, so we're talking about this one, the thermochemical conversion. So what are the products?
Produce
So
a
either
gas.
electricity or
Yes, electricity.
syngas or gas.
Yeah. Yeah,
Syngas.
syngas or producer gas, whatever it is.
Yes.
Then B, fruit and vegetable refuse.
Biochemical. Because
Yeah.
it
Now
has
what can
less
you produce?
methane or
Yeah,
methane
biogas. Biogas you
Okay.
can produce.
Okay.
C.
Sir, biomethanation comes under biochemical only.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a biological process, right?
Yes.
Yeah. C is coconut fronds. What can you produce? Fronds are nothing but the the leaves with that the branch of that leaf, right? That is frond.
Okay. Those are also kind of hard only. So we'll have to
Yeah.
go through combustion only.
Yeah.
Combustion or
Combustion or
pyrolysis.
pyrolysis. Yeah. So what can you produce through that?
Electricity or syngas.
Yeah, syngas or producer gas. So, depends on what kind of gasification you're using. D,
Yes.
rice husk. Rice husk, wheat
Rice husk,
straw. Tell me for rice husk and wheat straw together. I mean, both are almost the same only.
yes, sir. Both undergo biochemical process.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and it undergo thermochemical process.
yeah, they can undergo thermochemical also.
Hmm. So what can you produce using either of these
With biochemical
processes?
process, we can produce ethanol.
Right.
And through thermochemical,
Even biogas is
as we said,
possible, actually. Biogas is possible. You can also subject it to biomethanation.
biomethanation. Yes.
Okay. But there are some issues with using lignocellulosic biomass, as in the straw kind of biomass for biomethanation that we'll see in the next lectures. Okay. Yeah. So, and fermentation to produce ethanol. And in thermochemical conversion, you'll have the same things. You can produce electricity, you can produce syngas or producer gas, and then from syngas, you can produce a lot of different products.
Yes.
Now tell me about coconut shells and sawdust.
They both undergo thermochemical process.
Yeah. Why does sawdust not undergo, let's say, biochemical conversion?
Because even if it's sawdust, it's still hard, sir.
Yeah, it is hard. Even
For
if it is
for the
pulverized, even if it is
yeah.
in a pulverized form, it is still hard for the
Yes.
microorganism to penetrate.
Yes, sir.
So so pyrolysis will produce bio-oil. So like I said, so even that is an option. Okay. So this is what you can do with all these types of biomass. So okay, thank you so much.